time log into the account. But that does not happen the same with the personal email ID or the Gmail address. So what's the difference, ma'am? Why is that happening?
It's a policy that the session management, the session should be automatically logged off as soon as the windows are going to be closed, or after some particular time of inactivity, the session is going to be automatically logged off. So this is a policy and when you are using your college mail ID.
So basically the policy changes by we are accessing the different types of mail IDs, like based on the windows.
Yes. The way it is being designed, the way it is being infrastructured, based on that, the policy is going to change.
Okay. And ma'am, another thing, if we like in our office, if someone is accessing its remote desktop, like from work from home these days, so if someone is accessing the remote desktop and it's like logging into the server and getting the same IP address again and again. So if I just terminate the this thing and just log off without closing any of the tabs, if there are 5 tabs or windows open right now in my remote desktop, and I just log off and just don't exit or close the tabs, terminate the tabs, and next day again I just log into the account, then it does not seem that the tabs were even closed. So, ma'am, can that happen that a session can run for the number of times like 365 days, suppose?
No, can you please come again, Tanmay? I think I lost the connection in between. Can you please come again, Tanmay?
Yeah, ma'am, sure. Ma'am, suppose if we are accessing a remote desktop system from our home PCs or laptops, and we are accessing the server. So basically, we are just accessing or connecting our remote desktop with the particular IP address and creating that session, right? And if we just not terminate all the tabs or the windows which are there, and we just log off, and next day again I come back and log into my account without killing any of the tabs or the windows, then ma'am, this the session is getting killed. So why does the tabs or the windows doesn't get terminated as the session is getting killed?
Okay, so very first thing is the session is getting killed. The session, that means your connection is being off, not your windows or the tabs are, you haven't shut down your server, Tanmay. Okay, you have just closed the connection for your user, but server is running. Those tabs are really going to be open till the server is running. Are you getting my point, Tanmay?
Okay.
Okay, so if that particular server you are shutting it down, then the things are going to be different. But you are just logging off. Logging off doesn't mean logging off. That means you are breaking the connection from the remote desktop. It doesn't mean that the server tabs or the server services are going to be restarted.
Okay, so ma'am, basically they are in the processes which are getting killed by the session, right? I mean
Yeah,
that
only the
doesn't.
session, because you are logging off. So only your user connection is going to be terminated, not the server.
Okay. Okay. Ma'am, actually, I was just accessing such kind of a system, and there I asked the same question, and there they said that the session is already designed to be for 365 days. So that can also happen.
Yeah, it can also happen because now the session, I do not want the session to be terminated whenever you logged off. I want the session is going to be still there.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so it's again a policy. It's again a policy. So that the session management is a crucial aspect, that how exactly you are taking care about the logging off, what is the timeout period, what is the password change period, what is the cookies, what are the cookies, how long the cookies are going to have your query. So all these things come under the session management, and that's where the kind of risk, what you can say, to exploit the vulnerability into your system.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Got it. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, dear students. Darren, Devraj, Ritik, Janhavi.
No, ma'am.
Fine. No questions. So let us move ahead right now. Let the people join. Fine. So we were discussing about the access control. We have started with the access control, and we had a kind of discussion about a little discussion about the broken access control, where we have taken care about the credentials management as well as the the session ID session management as well. So the first thing what you need to understand that when you go with respect to the broken access control, so though the access control generally works with the the horizontal access as well as the vertical access. I do not remember exactly whether we have discussed this or not, but let me repeat it if we have discussed this. So horizontal access basically, it's kind of horizontally, so it can what you can take care about, two or three users are having the same kind of permissions, let's say, but user A is trying to access the user B. User B may access the user A as well, same set of permissions. So this is the horizontal the escalation, or you can say the horizontal access control. That means where the people who are having the same set of privileges, who are working on the same level into the organization, you can say they are accessing each other objects, or they are trying to follow each other object. Why? Because they are having the same level of permissions. The chances are going to be there that quite exploitation can be done when you go with the horizontal, but the amount of data which is getting which is getting exploited or which is getting exposed to the same level of the permissions, the complexity could be different, or complexity is going to be quite lenient, you can say. But when you go for the vertical escalation of your permission, so or the vertical access control means what? You are working as a normal user right now, and since you are able to actually exploit the vulnerability, which gives you to the access to escalate your permissions to the administrator. So instead of the normal user, you are working as an administrator. Fine. And then, so if anyone asks you that what are the types of the access control, so there are three types majorly what we need to take care about. One is the vertical access control, one is the horizontal access control, and one is the context dependent access control. So context dependent access control means what? According to the context, the user has assigned some set of roles, and based on those roles only the users are able to access the files or the objects you can take care about. So generally the vertical access control quite is going to be quite dangerous, because as we have discussed with the information flow model where we were talking about the Bella Padula as well as the Biba. So Biba, Bella Padula says no read up. So if you do remember that particular thing, so in that particular sense, in if vertical escalation happens with the privileges, so I'm supposed to breach the confidentiality of the system. The reason is, as a user, you are able to get the administrative privileges, and how exactly which kind of data is available as an administrator, you are supposed to visualize it, or you are supposed to see it. Now the another thing is when you go with the horizontal access control. So horizontal access control, that means you are trying to access the data of the user who are having the same set of permissions. So if he is a student, you are also a student. But data, that means it's privacy. So that data belongs to you. So you really do not want it to be accessed by someone. So basically, it has to actually deal with the privacy, because information flow model, whether it is a Biba model or whether it is a Bella Padula model or whether it is a Clark-Wilson model as well, those models are going to take care about how exactly the things can be done with when the permissions are up or if the permissions are at the downer side. But they do not go with respect to if I'm trying to access the object at the same level. So I do not know whether you are aware of this or not. In the Linux, there is a concept of groups. Groups means what? All the users who are having the same set of privileges will go to one particular group so that they can access the object at the same level. They can access the object at the same level and at the same set of permissions. But suppose in a group you are having three users and three of them are having the read permissions on a given object, but I want the specific user of that particular group to be having the right permission, to be having the right permission onto one particular set of object. So that is where I need to take care about that. If I am bothered about the horizontal access control, so I must be able to distinguish the user permissions from each other. Fine. Otherwise, the exploitation of the vulnerabilities are always going to be there, because in a group, if there are 10 different users, those 10 different users can access any of the file into the similar way. Are you getting all the participants what I'm trying to say? So if someone asks you that, explain with the example that how exactly the vertical access control or horizontal access control are going to happen. So let me give you one more, let me share with you, just hold on. Vertical. Yeah. So I have opened up the security vulnerability which is being reported in the Moodle, and do not go with that. Let me share my screen first. Yeah, see here. So let me share my screen. It is quite interesting what you need to see, and I have opened it for you at my end. I believe you are able to see the CV details. Hello, dear
Ma'am,
students.
the screen has not been shared yet.
I have shared already. Are you able to see CV details of models?
Yeah, ma'am, we can now.
Yeah, yeah. So now just look at the way this particular vulnerability CVE, which is being reported in 2019, was found in the model before the version this. User could assign themselves an escalated role within the course or content saved by modifying the request to LTI publisher site. See here, elevation of the permissions, elevation of the or escalation of the roles. User could assign or user could escalate the permissions given to them. So a normal user can see the administrative user permissions as well. So this is the vulnerability reported into your elements, the Moodles to take care about. Only the other vulnerability, so this is the escalated role, and okay, so let me give you one more thing. Just hold on, let me. There are the variants. So if someone asks you that how exactly the vertical, so you can always take the example of the model as well as the ACL or the access control list or the groups what we have discussed. Let me open up this particular link, what it is trying to show you. Just hold on. Yeah. I'm not able to find out here. Over here. Yeah. Yes. So this is the privilege escalation, what I would like to show you. And they have reported quite nicely for the Red Hat. So let me show you. So if someone asks you, what do you mean by permissions escalation? What is the access control? So let me, yeah. So this is the vulnerability which is being patched with the by Qualys. So let me tell you right now, and let me share the screen. Yeah. Are you able to see the Red Hat customer portal right now? And
Yes,
here,
ma'am.
yeah, and here you can see the privilege escalation via command line argument passing sudo and CB21. So this is the vulnerability. Is aware of a flaw in a way. Now sudo means what? You can actually work as a owner of a particular command. Sudo is different than the root. So do not go with that. But let me tell you this particular thing, that when you are working as a sudo, that means you are going to work as a owner of that particular command, right? So when you say the privilege escalation, so a local attacker could cause the memory corruption, leading to a crash of privilege escalation. Privilege escalation, that means, again I am repeating, you are working as a normal user, and because of some because of you have initiated some of the attack, and because of that particular thing, the privileges are escalated to the upper level. So you are not working as a normal user, now you are working as a administrator, or the super user, you can say. So here they have actually patched up. So heap buffer overflow was found in the way the sudo pass command line arguments, and this flaw is exploited by the local user who can execute the sudo command, and by default any local user can execute the sudo without the authentication. Successful exploitation of this flaw could lead to the privilege escalation. See here, again the way you are programming the thing. So if someone asks you, what do you mean by privilege escalation? So privilege escalations are of two types. One is the horizontal escalation and one is the vertical escalation. When you go with the horizontal escalation, that means all the users are working on the same setup with the same set of permissions. A user can actually access the other user, so it other user files. So basically it violates the privacy. When you say the vertical escalation means a normal user can see the administrative user permissions, or can get the administrative user permissions to deal with the data. So in that particular sense, you need to address this, that how this is known as the permissions or the privilege escalation, you can say, or the vertical privilege escalation. So with this particular example, you can give with this particular question, you can give the example either with the Red Hat CVE. So just have this particular link with you, or have this particular CVE details, CVE 2021-3156. Okay, the public date is 26 January 2021. So have this particular CV details with you to understand if anyone asks you in the examination, how do you, if if it is going to be a written examination. So in that particular sense, you need to address this, that there are the chances that anyone can ask you that, okay, What do you mean by the privilege escalation? Explain with the example. So you need to understand the example. You need to give proper CVE details, and please make sure about two things altogether. Security means, or the vulnerability means, pass or fail. There is no, it's 0 or 1. There is no, the intermediate layer in between. Okay, you cannot create a story when you are dealing with the vulnerability. You cannot write onto your own if there is nothing, you know no truth into that. So even if you are taking care about the question about the vertical as well as the horizontal escalation, make sure the example is going to be ready with the proper CVE details, and these many of the CVE details will address you that where, or give the direction to the examiner that what exactly you are thinking and where exactly you can get the marks. I believe this thing is quite clear. If it is the subjective, if it is the objective, then the things could be different. Fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now,
Ma'am, I have a doubt or a question which came into my mind right now.
please go ahead.
Hello. Ma'am, you said that in horizontal access, there can be like many users who have the same permission, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, ma'am, can we also take an example of a a financial company or something like that where people are in the IT department, suppose?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
go
so
ahead.
ma'am, they have a horizontal access to the system, right?
Based on what they are, if see, if there are two to three cashiers, fine. So they can work with the horizontal. But if we say you are working as a cashier and then there is a bank manager as well, fine. So this is a kind of vertical escalation.
Okay. So, ma'am, if there is a team who is handling a project, including the project manager, the developer, and all, so that will be a vertical access.
It's not about what will be the vertical axis. It's about where you are trying to move. Are you trying to move upwards with the permission set, or you are trying to move with the same permission set? If you would like to move upward to the permission set, so in that case you are going to have the vertical escalation, or with the same level you are going to have the horizontal. So vertical means from the developer to the the senior software developer to the project manager, you can have the vertical one. But if there are
Okay,
many software developers, so in that case you can have the horizontal one.
okay, ma'am, got it. Understood,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question?
No, ma'am, not yet from my
Mhm.
side. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Shall we proceed ahead? Okay. Now, so we have already discussed about the broken authentication the other day. This is the OWASP list I have already shared with you. And we have already discussed about that broken authentication means the credentials as well as the session management. Fine. Now, is the application vulnerable? How do you take care about? Yesterday I was reading one particular article about okay, so let me just narrate that particular article, the story about. The story was about that a company has hired let's talk about company has hired a DBA, and okay, so please just focus on what I'm saying. Company has hired a DBA for their day-to-day database maintenance as well as the backup operation. So there are now 5 sets of DBAs based on the the permissions what they are going to have. So the DBA with, or the junior DBA, you can say, is just going to take care about the maintenance or scheduling the backup or going to see the testing of the backup and so on and so forth. Some higher level of the DBAs are responsible to take care about the strategy or build a strategy for the backup, monitoring the performance of the database, writing the SQL queries, and so on and so forth. When you go with the senior DBAs, so senior DBAs are generally supposed to work with on the production to see to monitor the production database, so on and so forth. Right? So there are three different sets of DBAs. Now, which kind of access control a junior DBA should have? Whether the junior DBA is going to have the access control, what the the mid-level DBA is going to have, or what the senior DBA is going to have, or the permission sets or the roles are going to be different. Can anyone tell me? Hello? Can anyone tell me that I'm having three sets of DBAs?
Ma'am,
One is
it can be then context dependent access control, right? Because that's based on the role.
that's based on the role. So here, the role is going to be one for the junior DBA, one for the mid-level, and one for the senior. Who can access what? So we always talk about let it be default deny. So when you say default deny, so who can access? So there itself you are introducing the vulnerability. If you are not taking care about the permissions or giving the permissions to the junior DBA, why the junior DBA must be having the role which are required by the senior DBA? Or why all set of DBA should be having the same set of role? No, it is based on their job profile, what they can access and what they cannot access. Based on that, you are going to. Otherwise, there is always going to be the privilege creep. So here, so this was one of the case study was what I was reading yesterday, and access control enforces the policy. Now, how I came to understand or how I came to know that okay, I'm going to be a vulnerability assessment. I'm from the vulnerability assessment team. I'm going to just cross check whether your database is vulnerable or not. So before that, I need to see your policies as well as your standards. Okay, you have defined the policies that okay, for the junior DBA you must be having this role. For the midterm, mid-level DBA you are going to have this role. For the senior DBA you are going to have these roles. If these are the roles you have granted to the your respective DBAs, so for sure you are maintaining the policies. And if not, then that time you are introducing the vulnerability. Fine. So first of all, you need to understand that everything you are going to see that whether the data is vulnerable or not. You are going to see that whether the risk can be accepted or not. You are going to see the the impact of that particular risk onto your business. So everything is determined by the value of that particular asset to the company. So I can say this particular vulnerability is having high impact on my case, but at your case it could be at the lower impact. But because you do not bother about the data much, you bother about the trust what you are building up in the customer, because you are handling the the report generation data. You are not handling the what you can say the the transaction oriented or medical history data, where even if if your database server is down for some particular period of time, you are okay with that. So this is again a policy what you are handling. Fine. Now, the second thing what you need to address, so even if you say that whether the vulnerability acceptable or not, so you need to understand that how long you can go with this particular vulnerability. Is it going to impact your business function? If it is going to impact your business function, for sure you need to address that vulnerability very fast. Now, bypassing the access control checks by modifying the URL, I can always do that. Internal application state or HTML page, or simply using the custom API attack tool. Okay. Are you aware of all the students about API?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the APIs?
Ma'am, API is kind of a basic interface or a bridge, you can say, which actually connects or acts as a bridge between the two of the things, like two of the faces or layers, you can say. Like
Yeah.
if an example, if I want to give that, ma'am, it can be make my trip. Like if you are accessing the website, then that's actually the API which coordinates or handshakes between two of the things, like the server and your client machine. So that's how you communicate between the two.
Exactly, Tanmay. Exactly, Tanmay. So you need to address this particular issue that whenever you are developing any API or whenever you are using any of the ready-made API, so how exactly who is responsible to security or the privacy of that particular API? You need to address the vulnerabilities. You always bought or you always use the API which are going to have the less known vulnerabilities as compared to those APIs which are having the more vulnerabilities. Right? So how to prevent? So access control is only effective if enforced in trusted server-side code or serverless API where attacker cannot modify the access control. With the exception of public resources, implement access control mechanism once and reuse them throughout the application. Model access control should enforce record ownership. That means non-repudiation. Please take a note. I'm using the word non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means who can take the responsibility of the ownership to perform a one particular task. Disable web server directory listing and ensure the file metadata, log access control behaviors, unique application business limits, and so on and so forth. There are the different kind of things altogether. But before I go into the detail of how exactly the things are, let me go with the different topic altogether before I go into this. Are you aware of the transport layer security generate the certificates? Hello?
Ma'am, can you repeat?
Are you aware of TLS or the transport layer security generate the certificates? All the students, Akash, Darren, Del, Ashwin, Avi.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Ma'am, what certificates?
yeah.
Ma'am,
So
it's
let
the
me,
basic ID, right?
no. So let me have this thing all together in a different way. When two web servers, when you say mail.google.com from your own machine or from new machine, let's say. So
What do you
in
mean by
that,
serverless API?
just hold on. Let me finish my own thing first. Okay. So what I'm saying, when two web servers or when two web pages are communicating with each other, how do they build the trust? Can anyone tell me? When two web servers or when two web pages communicating with each other, how do they build up the trust?
Ma'am,
Anyone?
that we
Ma'am,
can
with
say
help of
like,
certificates that they that are generated.
What happened? Can you please come again?
The certificates are generated during the communication to verify if the communication is authentic or not.
Exactly. Who is responsible to generate the certificate, Akash?
Uh, Ma'am, I'm not sure, but the service provider would be responsible. So, for
Okay.
example, if it's my server, I'll have to generate a certificate that is valid
Mm-hmm.
and is accepted by the other party as well. And
Okay.
certificates are
Now,
signed by different parties.
exactly. Fine. Now, just focus on what I'm saying. Whenever one web page, so you must be aware of TLS and SSL. Have you heard the name TLS or SSL?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Transport layer
Is
security.
it same as SSH or is SSH different?
SSH is different. SSH is going to work on the application layer. Fine.
Okay.
When you
Yeah.
say the TLS that means if data is getting transmitted or data would like to transmit securely over the network, it is via TLS and transport
Okay.
layer
Yeah.
security. Fine. Yeah. Now just focus on, and I'm just giving you the different kind of visualization. That's what I feel. So in the network or on the network, when you say, because you are having more nice understanding than me, when I take care about the network essentials, I'm just learning nowadays what are the network essentials. So just correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to have the different kind of either the OSI layers or the TCP layers to take care about the transmission from one particular end to other end. And during that transmission, now just focus on, during that particular transmission, there could be many devices. Please focus on. There could be many devices from where the traffic is moving, isn't it? Now, so every device is going to have its application layer as well as the presentation layer. Let's talk about that. Now, the way the data is being presented, are you aware of what does the presentation layer do? What does the presentation layer do? See here how exactly vulnerability comes into the picture. Can you tell me what does the presentation layer do? Hello? Akshay, Anubhav, Avi, Ahmad.
It
Can you?
it's concerned with the layout of the server,
Ma'am,
Okay,
it gives the exact
of
format.
the web pages and all.
okay, okay.
Ma'am, it's
Ma'am, it deals with
responsible
the
for the
data
exact format
representation
and
basically.
It's data representation. Now, when you say the data representation, shall I say that presentation layer works more with the encoding?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when the presentation layer works more into the encoding, that means when the client is asking something from the server, they must be doing the handshake. Handshake means what? The client must be understand the language what the server is speaking, and the server must be understand the language what the client is speaking. Got the thing? Now that means based on their mutual understanding only the handshake is going to be done. Now suppose there are 100 different data types which are being used, either the user defined data types or could be the inbuilt data types. There could be the 100 different programming languages which are getting, maybe the Java is getting communicated uh, with the C, or Java is getting communicated with the, let's say, Python, and so on and so forth. Because when you take care about the distributed application, you really do not know that part of the application is developed in Java or in Python or in some other programming language. I need to have that particular compatibility. So when the request passes from one end to other end, the encoding must be standardized. The reason is if the encoding is not at all standardized, so there are the chances of possible loss of data, or there are the chances that the data is presented in the wrong way to the presentation layer at the respective server side. So if you get a time, so this is a vulnerability, how exactly the data is presented. And if you get a time, please go through that. I'm not going to cover right now over here, but this is an interesting thing. When you say network security, what do you mean by network security? When you say network vulnerability, what do you mean by network vulnerability? How exactly the data is getting presented to the device? How exactly the data is being encoded to the device? So there are, I do not know, are you aware of the term RFC, request for code or request for comment? Hello? Are you aware of the term RFC? No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So if you get a time, just type RFC. RFC for the network encoding. Right? So that network encoding is responsible to put the standardization so there won't be any kind of data loss. And that particular standardization is quite vulnerable with respect to the buffer overflow. And any of the attacker knows that the things are really going to be tough to handle because we really do not know where exactly in the network this particular attack has caused. So if you get a time, just read. It is not into the syllabus, but for the information I am telling, since it is a vulnerability again, but into the different domain when two devices are communicating over the network. So if you get a time, just go through that. Again, you can say RFCs for RFC, request for comment, RFC for network encoding. Please do and please read it. It is quite interesting thing to move ahead. Yeah. Now, Dell was asking me one question about the serverless. We were discussing about that. Anyone is aware of the cloud here? Have you done the cloud into your syllabus?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Introduction to cloud computing you must have done.
Yes, ma'am. It's going on right now. That's cloud computing. Like yeah, I have done.
Okay. Now,
We're just like going through it, like we're not finished. Yeah,
cloud
we're doing
computing
it.
is done.
We're doing it, not fully done. We're still in the process of doing it, yeah.
Your voice is not audible. Well, what I'm trying to tell you, the screen
That is going parallel.
That's going parallel.
Okay, fine. It is going to go in a parallel. So now, let me give you the one particular understanding that what you need to go with. When you say serverless means what? It is a concept within the cloud computing where when you can say the resources can be provisioned. So because in the cloud you must have learned there is an infrastructure service, platform service, software service. We won't talk about the platform as well as the software, but you need to understand that there is no specific server who can instantiate your request. There is no specific server who can instantiate your request. There is a group of different kind of APIs. There is a group of different kind of, you can say, the processes which are responsible to provision your request for the server. And that's why generally, Dell, when you are going to go into the cloud computing, any of the provision of the system is named as a serverless. Fine. There is no specific server who is going to take care about the specific request. It's a group, it's a virtualized server who is responsible to take care about your request. Fine, Dell?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone
Yes.
else? Any other question? Fine. Avi, are you doing good? Yeah. So now, this is again the broken access control. How a web application grant access to the contents and the functions to some users and not others. Default deny. Default deny. As a human, it's our tendency to just, because of more and more work, we generally, we tend to forget the things. So if you are going to have the default accept, the risk is more. Why? Because you just forget to, disable the acceptance for a one particular user. That's why we always say that let it be default deny. So you need to take care about the acceptance specifically, otherwise for the security reasons, entire access is being denied. Now, Access control sounds like a simple problem, but is insidiously, I'm sorry about the tongue twisting word, difficult to implement correctly. Now, why it is difficult to implement correctly? So you need to first understand it. Yeah, it is really sure. It is really, really important that, okay, it looks quite easy. Why? Because I'm going to put my username and the password. I'm going to use the encryption. I'm going to see the automatic log off. See how many things you need to do. I need to put the username as well as the password, my credentials. Second, encrypt it. Third, session management. Fourth, the access permissions. Fifth, the role-based authentication. Sixth, what are the objects users are allowed to access with the least privileges? Seventh, what is the need to know? Need to know means, or how many users are required to know this particular thing? Only those permissions are allowed. Eighth, role-based authentication. Ninth, is there any specific rule? Okay, these kind of users are able to access this window at a given particular time only. Why the time is required? There is a fundamental concept. Let me show you that particular concept. TOU and TOC. Okay, so it's not a it's a TOC and TOU. Let me tell you what is that. So here, why the time is important, you need to address this particular fundamental. When you say the rule-based authentication and the rule is being created to just enable the user only to give the specific interest or to access some particular object. So here, TOC stands for time to check, and the TOU stands for time to leave. So let me show it to you again over here. Yeah, see here, time of check to time of use. So when you take care about the time of check, so it is nothing but you need to understand that what particular time the service is going to be available. What particular time the service is going to be used. When the user is checking, when the user is doing the log off, what is the time period? And that is the reason why this particular thing is really important. Time of check to time of use. TOC or TOU. That is caused by the risk condition involving the checking of the state of a part of the system, preventing the TOC as well as the TOU. So this is the thing what you need to understand. Okay, dear students, are you with me? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So please just take care about how so 9, although it looks quite simple, but it is quite important, and there are different kind of steps, or there are very small threads which takes care about the access control and the privilege creep. You need to understand the importance of it. So this is a cheat sheet what you can see right now. Okay, yesterday I was talking to one of the students from MSc System Security at SICSR, and that student is really good. He has done his RHCSA, That means Red Hat certified administrator. Administrator, I believe. Yes, but Red Hat certified engineer. He has prepared for that, but hasn't given the examination. So he know everything in the system. So we were just discussing about that. What is the future? How exactly they are handling the different kind of vulnerabilities. So out of the discussion, he just came into this particular way that, ma'am, we need to take care about every time the DAC as well as the MAC, which is nothing but the discretionary access control, or you say the mandatory access control. And those are the things what need to be addressed. Fine. So just go through this particular link as well, what I'm trying to share with you. It is through the OWASP as well only. And so let me take a 10 minutes break right now, and after that I would like to show you these are the vulnerabilities by the National Vulnerability Database. See here. Let me discuss this thing and then we'll have a break. Fine. So here, a very nice broken access control vulnerability in the D-Link DSL web administration interface allows an attacker, please take a note on to that, allows an attacker to change the DNS servers without being authenticated on the admin interface. Just look at where exactly the broken access control. Attacker to change the DNS servers without being authenticated on the admin interface. This is the second I would like to show you. See, the base score is 7.2 high. OpenFile main 2000 contains the broken access control vulnerabilities which can be used to execute unauthorized command after attacker obtained the administrator access token or cookie. This is one more thing what you need to address, the CVE 2020-12776 detail. So just go through those things and let me show you some of the vulnerabilities. Let me share the screen. Yeah, here, let me.
Ma'am, can you repeat the CVA numbers or can you just drop the links in the chat box?
Yeah, I will. Just hold on. Let me just, I have done the NIST for the broken access control. So here one more link is, just hold on for a second. Yeah. Smart home app. So let me open it. Yeah. So this is the, again, a broken access control in the smart home app to allows an attacker in the same local area network to list user accounts and control the IoT devices, which could be quite risky, that connect with its gateway. It's quite risky. Just look at the way you are moving. Just look at the way the industry is moving. Just look at the way the industry is trying to, the access the or the cyber industry or the the attacker industry is trying to access your information. Are you getting me? So the way you develop the software, it opens up the platform for very different vulnerabilities. And when it opens up the platform for the very different vulnerabilities, that could be really, really risky. See here, one more CV details. Let me show you this particular thing as well. Yeah. Active job allow attacker to craft user input which can cause active job to deserialize it using the global ID and give them access to the information that they should not have. So just so the best thing is to just look at the NIST, just look at the OWASP, just look at the common vulnerability database, which gives you the complete understanding how exactly the system needs to be designed. Fine. So let me share the link with you, and just hold on. Just go through these links, and in the if it is going to be a written examination, so these examples are going to be really good to to understand or to explain any of the question. Let me put it. Right? Just go through this particular thing, and then we will take care about. Any question? Fine. So let's have a break, and we'll be here again. Fine. All the students. So it's
Yes,
11
ma'am.
right now, and we'll be here again 11:14. Hello, I'm back here. I hope all of you are here.
Yes, ma'am.
I have published one more link onto the chat box. Please go through that because this particular link is going to give you the complete understanding about what we are planning to discuss right now. Right? Now, so till now we had a kind of discussion about the CI triad, then we have seen the information flow model, then we have seen authentication can be done how, then we have seen the different attacks, then we have taken care about the, the identity, authentication, authorization, auditing we have taken care about. And after that, we had a kind of discussion with the broken authentication. In the last session, we have revised all of those things, and we are starting a new right now. Now, moving ahead, a quick question from my side to you is, the question is that how exactly, suppose I am working on the Google right now, or I do have the Facebook account right now, but I do not remember right now the credentials of my Facebook account. It is quite possible. Now I'm asking Google, or Facebook is going to ask me, okay, would you like to log in using Google? Would you like to log in using LinkedIn and so on and so forth? I will say, okay, fine. Log me in using Google. Means what? My credentials are getting shared. Now I would like you to have complete attention what I'm saying. And you can ask me any of the question if you do not get the understanding. What I'm saying, that those many of the credentials what the Google has provided to me, those many of the credentials are being displayed, not exactly displayed, are being shared. Shared with whom? Shared with the Facebook, so that I can log in into my account. Same kind of credentials I can share with the LinkedIn as well. If I do not remember my LinkedIn user credentials or LinkedIn username as well as the password, means what? The credentials are getting shared from one application to another application. And this is a fundamental concept of the federated identity. Federated identity means whenever the credentials are getting shared between two different kind of platform, one is running Google and another is running Facebook, I need to take care about the user privacy while sharing the credentials over the network. I need to take care about the security. I need to see that how I do minimize the vulnerabilities which are present into the current architecture. So the document what I have shared with you, this particular document is nothing. Let me share my screen with you. So this particular document is nothing but basically going to give you the understanding about the vulnerabilities into the federated identity management. Yeah. Now federated means what? You are using the same sessions. Federated means what? You are using the same credentials over the different kind of applications. The credentials are getting shared by one application and the other application is going to use it. You as a user is not going to do anything. Now, into that particular way, so one of the services there who is responsible to work as an identity provider. Identity provider means what? Who is responsible to provide the identity of that particular user. Okay, the user exists. The another is going to be a service provider who is going to carry that identity over the network to other product, you can say. So the vulnerabilities can be introduced.
Ma'am,
How this? Yes, please.
Ma'am, can you come again with the this one, the service provider, right or
Yeah,
wrong?
just
I'm
hold on, just
disconnected.
hold on, just hold on. So the vulnerability can be introduced when two different systems are trying to interact with each other. What I mean to say that whenever I put my user credentials onto the system, I'm a user who is going to identify myself. The identity provider is going to identify me that okay, this particular user still exists. So how do I do that? There must be one identity provider who takes care about my information, and after cross checking the information, the proper authorization can be done. So when my credentials are getting, when the Google is going to send my credentials to the Facebook, so Google is going to be the identity provider, is going to provide my identity to the Facebook. And Facebook is going to be a service provider. Facebook is going to extract that identity information and going to give to some particular authorization engine so that the user can be authorized to access some of the services. Am I clear to you? Hello, dear students. Am I clear to you? We are discussing the federated identity management. My dear students,
Yes, ma'am.
again, the objective of the federated identity management is to work as a single sign on where you just authenticate it one time and you can access many of the different kind of services. So this is the primary objective of the single sign on. Are you with me, dear students? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Avi, Palakjit, are you able to follow me? Akshay Londe, Shubhit, Vyapak, Jatin.
Yes, ma'am, I am here.
Yeah? Okay. So this is the thing what we are starting the discussion. And in the next session, I'm going to go into detail about how exactly these protocols are working to support the single sign-on and where exactly the vulnerabilities can be introduced. So since you are working onto the network every time, so you must be aware of these protocols altogether. Fine. So this is nothing but you can take care about fine. You are working into that. So please open up the that document at your end if you can. So when you say the federation protocol, so federation protocols are different kind of protocols altogether. There are three major protocol federation protocol. One is the SAML. SAML is the Security Assertion Markup Language, right? The next is the OpenID Connect, and the third one is the OAuth. So these are the protocols which are being used to take care about the federated identity. So let me show you the diagram of federated identity. I'm just trying to share the screen with the diagram. Yeah. So here you can say right now which diagram I should go for. Yeah, see here. Login request, not exactly this. Let me show you this. Yeah, federated identity. See here. This is what we were discussing about the service provider. This is a user. User would like to access the service. Now just look at. User would like to access the service and user has to authenticate itself before accessing the service. Now, if user would like to authenticate itself, so how the authentication is going to be done? Authentication is going to be done by the identity provider. So in our case, the Google is an identity provider, so Google is going to do the authentication for the user. So user would like to access the Facebook service. So Facebook is a service provider. So Facebook is going to send the request to, as soon as the user is going to say, okay, use the Google credentials. So Facebook is going to send the request to Google. Okay, just share me the credentials for this particular user. How? They build a trust relationship. And the certificate is going to be created. And that certificate carry the user information along with what he would like to access onto the Facebook. So the concept of the federated identity is sharing about or sharing of the user credentials among the different kind of applications. There are only some amount of user credentials which can be shared or across the different set of applications. Not every credentials can be shared because the trust relationship has to be built up. So with the Facebook, the Google is having the trust relationship. That's why the credentials can be shared. If there is no trust relationship, the credentials cannot be shared. Are you getting, dear students, what I mean to say? Fine. So we'll stop here for today. I won't go into the detail of that. But I need to twist now the information, whatever we have discussed, in a different way. Have you done the programming in C?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any specific error what you received, for example, the segmentation fault?
Like if you write your own custom header files in C and you don't arrange them in proper order, then you might get an error.
No, but have you received the error segmentation fault?
Several times.
How did you reduce or how did you eliminate that particular error?
Ma'am, well, most of the cases the data types had some problem, or they were not.
What is the problem? What is the problem?
Ma'am, it might be because of the explicit explicit and implicit typecasting problem with some of the data types, which was not possible, I'm guessing.
Fine. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. In Java, sometimes it happened that your program crashes. Yeah.
Ma'am, your voice is cutting.
Have you noticed that your program is terminated automatically in Java or in Python?
Yeah, ma'am. Sometimes.
Why? Have you noticed this particular thing? Why? Yes? My dear students, come on, you are the programmers. And if the program is crashing, that means there is some problem. Now, can you tell me why the programs are crashing? Forget
It can
about it.
happen because
Yeah?
of the API. There would be some problem with the API or something like that. This is not C program. This is based on experience of other working with other applications.
Okay.
So, your hardware requirements might not be enough. Like memory might be less or something,
Okay. The
and
very
It
first
might
reason
be
thing
the
is someone.
ecosystem or the software you're dealing with, like it's not the enough. Like sometimes it happens that you don't have the proper Java or GRE or GDK file based on the version of it.
The first thing you need to understand while answering any of the question about the program crash, that somewhere onto your system the resources are getting exhausted. As simple as that. You need not to bother about how exactly those resources are allocated. You need to bother about somewhere the resources are exhausted. That is your first test with respect to the vulnerability. The resources are exhausted. So when you say now, I ask you, okay, just I was running this particular C program or this particular Java program very nicely till the yesterday evening. After that, when I'm sorry about it. After that, as soon as I security patch my system, started crashing my Java application. Just look at what I'm saying. As soon as I did the security patch, it started my Java application crashing. Or as soon as I upgrade my system, my Java application started crashing. Started crashing means what? It is fine that I can understand that somewhere the program is doing wrong thing. Wrong means what? How do I reach? Is it reading the files correctly? Is it writing into the files correctly? Is it allocating or is it executing? Is there any problem in the executables? No. There is always going to so have this particular perception while doing the vulnerability assessment as well, that there is always going to be the problem of the resource exhaustion. The resources are getting exhausted, reaching your system into the denial of service. Because if the program is going to crash, there is not going to be any service which is going to support that program. And that particular service cannot be utilized by your end user. So, denial of service. That you need to understand. Okay. Have you, other than the syntax errors, have you noticed anything while doing the HTML or CSS, or let's say, the web development or PHP development? Any problem? Any problem, dear students?
Mom, I don't particularly recall what it is, but in the console there sometimes is an error. It
There
displays
is
a uh,
displays the error. Which kind of error is it?
mom, sometimes it's linking error that the page is not linked properly or it's unable to
Page is
reach.
not linked. That means those libraries are not uploaded. Okay, just tell me just narrate me. Let me narrate one of the case study. One of the case study. I'm extending this case study itself about the Java application. Till yesterday, till yesterday, the Java applications were able to read the files correctly, able to write into those files correctly, able to execute properly and give you the results as well. But as soon as the security patch is being updated, Java application is not able to read and write. Can anyone brief me about the reason behind this error? Yeah? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Can anyone tell me the reason behind this error? Come on. I have given you the hint. Hint is that the security patch is being updated. The security patch is being updated, and because of that, the permissions for the specific device are not available to the Java application, and because of that, the reading and writing is getting failed. Are you getting me my point?
Yes,
Where
ma'am.
could be the guess? How you start? How do you start your vulnerability assessment process? You need to address, okay, before the scene, what had happened? I'm saying, okay, Java application was executing till yesterday night. It was the time when I was using it. And then in the morning it stopped. The reason is because the security patch is being updated. That patch has changed the permissions onto the specific directories or specific devices what the Java application is using. And because of that, the read and write is failing. So vulnerability, this is the vulnerability, but the risk is all denial. I'm not losing any of the data, but what I'm suffering with, I'm suffering with availability. Fine, I'm really okay with that. For 2 to 3 hours, my service is not going to be available, but I'm not losing any data. Are you getting all the students what I'm saying? From the confidentiality and integrity, they both are intact. But what I'm losing, the availability. But the security patch is being updated. So I need to say, okay, the security patch is being updated. And because of that, 2 to 3 hours, the system is not available or into the denied state. How I can reduce it? If the system is quite critical or important for me. Are you getting me? What I'm trying to say? Hello, dear student.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. So we have discussed a lot of different things altogether, and can you suggest me now, since we have done at least 40% of the syllabus, can you tell me now how should I move ahead? Should I stop the recording? Yeah, I believe we are able to, gather the things what we are discussing. But I still